Tell us what the plan is for Top Kill, what exactly it involves, and its prospects, what they're saying its prospects are for success.
Well, Top Kill is actually a very complicated process, and BP has actually been planning for this from the beginning. And basically what they have done is brought in tankers full, 50,000 barrels of this drilling fluid, which is similar to mud. They're going to pipe this stuff down to that blowout preventer, which is sitting on top of the well. The hope is that it is heavier than the oil that's gushing out of the ground. And if that in fact works, that leaves a hole where they can pour cement in. That cement dries, all while this heavier stuff is keeping the oil back down, and that seals up the well. And keep in mind, it's happening a mile down on the ocean floor, never been tried anywhere near that deep. The pressure down there is unbelievable. Everything else BP has tried has not worked. They're hoping this will do the trick. The CEO says he gives it an odds of 60 to 70%. I talked to a couple of engineers who said maybe more like 1%.
And I saw that you had spoken also to someone who said that if this does not go correctly, it could actually create more problems. Is that the case?
Basically, what's happening is we already know this blowout preventer is broken. It didn't work in the first place, so it's somehow damaged. Now you're shooting 40 barrels of this thick mud a minute into this thing to get that oil forced down. So that's a lot of pressure being added already to this pressure cooker that's down there, and there's real concern that if this blowout preventer is damaged, it can't handle all of this. Let's say it's further damaged, that could very easily cause a larger leak.
Once this process begins, how long approximately are they saying, BP officials say, it will take before they know whether it's a success or not?
What BP has said is maybe in 12 hours they will know. I mean, we've all been looking at that camera that's trained on the pipe where the oil is leaking out. It is entirely possible that throughout the day, as they're testing this stuff, as they're starting to do it, that leak dissipates, goes down to a dribble, and everybody starts to celebrate, but it turns out they can't get enough of that stuff to actually force the oil far back enough in the ground to pour that concrete. So it's not a one-time quick thing and we're going to have an answer and hallelujah, this thing is over. It's going to be a process, and BP is saying 12 hours, maybe even 24 hours, just depending on how it goes.
And Ryan, I know you've talked to the people who live and work and even vacation in this area. What's the sentiment here? I know I'm imagining a lot of anger, but directed toward whom?
This is their second enormous tragedy. First there was Katrina and Rita, the hurricanes, and now this man-made tragedy. So first of all, I think for the people of Louisiana and this immediate Gulf Coast area, if you talk about Mississippi, Alabama, these people, they feel picked on. These people have just rebuilt, and now they're looking at a loss literally of their lifeblood. If you don't have fishing down here and you don't have tourism down here, there is no backup plan. The only backup plan is all of the oil industry here, and that's a little bit of the irony. As for who they're mad at, first and foremost is BP. But boy, I have to tell you, over the last 2 weeks, anger at the Coast Guard, anger at the government, anger at the Obama administration. They feel like they're being ignored. They feel like if this were happening somewhere along the East Coast, the Navy would have set up shop. President Obama would have a command center right there. So they really feel like BP is being allowed to run this operation and that their cries for help are being ignored. And
the real irony here, as you alluded to earlier, is that Louisiana needs the oil industry, and yet the oil industry, or at least one part of it, is really killing them right now.
Right down the road from here in Morgan City, Louisiana, there is something called the Shrimp and Petroleum Festival, and they have it every year, okay? And the logo is an oil rig with a shrimp wrapped around it, sort of hugging it. And that's very symbolic. In every family down here, one brother is a shrimper, the other brother works in the oil business. So we're not talking about people who are saying, let's kick the oil rigs out of here, let's kick the oil companies out of here. Their anger is directed at BP because they feel like this company has spent billions and billions of dollars figuring out how to get that oil out of the ground, and apparently didn't spend a red cent, as they would say down here, figuring out what happens if it starts leaking and what happens if it ends up on these beaches. That's the anger you hear. It's not some sort of anti-oil backlash. It's really specifically a question of corporate responsibility in the minds of these folks.